What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Now, I want you to picture this. You're 16 years old, you've convinced your parents to get your A1 license, you did your course, you got your A1 license, and now it's time for your first motorcycle. But let's say your parents are a little bit strapped for cash. They don't have much money. They don't want to get into debt buying you your first motorcycle. And even though there are pretty good options on the market for 125cc motorcycles for 16-year-olds, we have offerings from Sim, we have offerings from Zontes, the U, the G, the NHX, the NHT. They're great bikes, but those bikes are around 3,500 euros. Now, they come well equipped, they're great motorcycles, but they are a bit on the expensive side, let's say. What do? Do you buy second-hand? Well, I would suggest before going to buy second-hand, taking a look at one of the cheapest 125cc motorcycles you can actually buy. And it is made by Zontes. And it's this thing. This is the Zontes Monster 125. And it's one of the cheapest motorcycles you can buy brand new at just 2,600 euros or less, depending on the market. This is the cheapest way to get into motorcycling at 16 years old on a brand new motorcycles. Yes, there still are a couple of scooters, there are a couple of Cubs, but if you want a proper motorcycle with a 5-speed transmission, a clutch, proper brakes, proper equipment, and something that will last you quite a long time, this is a very interesting proposition from Zontes. So, as we usually do, let's get into it from front wheel to back wheel and see what this thing is all about. Alright, let's start up front. First of all, we have a small little windscreen fairing here. It's just for design, it does nothing to block the wind. But moving on down, this is the interesting part. We have an LED headlight, and that's full high and low beam are LED with also, I don't know if you can see them in the lights, but also daytime running lights all around the cluster. A normal fork down below. Moving on down, we have a 17-inch front wheel with a decently sized brake disc and a triple piston front brake caliper. Now, the size and the braking force of this front brake is nothing short of amazing. It puts out a lot of stopping power, even though this bike is not that fast with just a 125cc air-cooled engine. But still, it's very good to have, especially as a beginner. Now, we don't have ABS on this bike. Once again, the cheapest bike you can buy, but you do have a combined braking system. That means when you engage the rear brake, it also acts on the front brake, giving you a way to ride it with just the rear brake when you're actually using both brakes. Moving around to the side, we have nicely shaped fairings to give it a bit of an aggressive look. We have a 14-liter fuel tank, a 125cc air-cooled engine, which puts out about 11 horsepower. Normal 4-stroke engine. We have our transmission here. It's a 5-speed transmission. We have our rear brake. Like I've said, it acts on the front brake as well because it's a combined braking system. Moving on back, we have our exhaust and the dual shocks on the back, which come with remote reservoirs. That means you can actually put a lot of weight on this bike and it will handle properly. 17-inch rear wheel with a decently knobby tire on the back. We'll get more into that in just a little bit. Moving around to the back, we have our LED turn signal indicators right here, our LED rear light right here. Everything on this bike is LED. And our luggage rack up top here. That's pretty much it for the rear of the bike. Nothing special here. Like I've said, pretty knobby rear tire and very decent suspension. Also, the rear brake is a disc brake, and it comes with a single piston caliper. In terms of dashboard and controls, we have our kill switch here, we have our engine start button here, we have our ignition here, horn, turn signal indicators, high and low beam, and up front here we have hazard lights. Everything is normal, nothing is out of the ordinary. And in terms of dashboard, we have analog and digital combined display. So we have a analog tachometer to show our RPM, and on the digital side we have our idiot lights up here, and then we have our speed, our clock, our gear position indicator, and our trip and odometer. And that's pretty much it for the basic motorcycle. Nothing much to say about it, but then again you have everything you would need on it. You have decent brakes, you have a decent riding position, you have decent instruments, normal controls. It's a motorcycle. Now this is the kind of motorcycle that you can see in Asia, basically used by couriers, by delivery people. It's a bike made to last, and it's a bike made to work hard. That's why you have a 14-liter fuel tank, gives you decent range for a 125cc. You have a knobby rear tire. That means when you get on dirt roads, it will handle pretty decently. The front tire is also nothing to sneeze at. It is pretty good for dirt trails, dirt roads, fire roads, something like that. And all in all, it's a honest to God decent motorcycle. No bells and whistles, just cheap transportation, cheap reliable transportation. But let's get around the yard and see exactly how it rides. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention. It does have a side stand and a center stand, so it's very easy to maintain your chain. Okay. Come on. Alrighty. Riding the Zontes Monster, or in some markets it's branded as the Daytona Monster. Anyway, it's the same bike. So what do we have here? We have a single-cylinder air-cooled 125cc classic style engine with electric start and backed up by a Kickstarter. We have about 11 horsepower, a simplistic engine, like I've said, air-cooled, so all you have in terms of fluids in the engine is engine oil, and that's it. We do have a, I think it's a 5-speed, yep, it's a 5-speed transmission. Very smooth, very easy to use, very smooth clutch, easy to operate. It's a bike, okay? It's a bike. It's very light. I think it's about under 150 kilograms or so, somewhere around the region of 150 kilograms. It's peppy. Now, don't call it powerful because it's not. You really have to wind out the engine if you want to get some decent power. But what I do like is the brakes. The brakes, although they are lacking ABS, but for this price, what do you expect? I mean, it's a lot less than 3,000 euros, and it's a brand new bike. That's the thing. It's not some second-hand bike that's been dropped 100 times. No, this is a brand new motorcycle. Less than 3,000 euros out the door, a brand new motorcycle that can teach you a lot about riding. Changing gears, using brakes, using the clutch, operating the clutch. Just remember to keep it in the high RPM because it doesn't like to be lugged. It doesn't have a lot of torque and it doesn't like to be lugged. But otherwise, this is a great motorcycle. It's so light, it's so easy to use, it's so nimble. It's a perfect bike for a 16-year-old because you can have so much fun with it because it's so small. And like I've said, this is a motorcycle used in Asia by couriers, so it's dead reliable. The engine is bulletproof. With just 11 horsepower, you're not gonna stress it out no matter what you do with it. And if you want to take it on a dirt road with these tires that it comes, it's perfectly capable. And the seat is nice and wide, it's comfortable. I have plenty of legroom. If you look here, I'm not cramped at all. And I've had people much higher on this bike. I mean, people that have 190 centimeters height, 195, and they actually fit on this bike. Now, it wasn't perfect for them, but they actually fit on the bike and they could ride it no problem. You can tell the rear suspension was conceived to have weight on it, because even with my weight, it's pretty harshly sprung. I would have liked it to be a little bit more softer, but otherwise, nothing to complain here. The brakes are nice and responsive. The The engine, if you rev it out, picks up nicely. It's a bike. And you get things that I really like the LED headlight. I mean, if you're ever at night on the road outside of the city, you will appreciate an LED headlight. Believe me, I have an LED headlight on my scooter, and honestly I do not want to go back to halogen headlights, because I've ridden at night with a halogen headlight, and I've ridden also with the LED headlight, and believe me, it's a night and day difference between halogen and LED. If you're riding decent distance at night, it's much better to have an LED. And considering Zontes, they could put LED lights on this bike for this price point, it's nothing short of amazing. That's what I keep coming back to. It's a very cheap bike, but it doesn't feel like a cheap bike. The plastics, the tank is metal, the plastics feel solid. And like I've said, in terms of brakes, so easy to bring it to a halt, and then easy to set off again. And for city riding, just look at how easy it is to maneuver. Just feather the clutch, feather the throttle. Such tight radius. Such an easy bike to have to maneuver through the city. And it does pick up and go. I mean, if you actually wind the engine out, it does pick up. I mean, at, let's see, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, at 6,000 it wakes up. So above 6 grand, that's when the engine picks up. But if you ride it between 4 and 6, it's pretty economical. It has decent pickup between 4,000 and 6,000. So this would be the RPM to ride it around the city, between 4 and 6. And then if you want some, I don't know, overtaking or acceleration, you would go above 6. Now the red line is at 10,000 RPM, so 6,000 is nothing for this engine. You can rev it out to 7, 8, 9, you're still not even at the red line. And through a tight place like this yard, it's such an awesome bike. It's so easy to control. It's this was made for tight city streets, especially for the tight city streets of Asian cities. This was made for that because it's so nimble. As long as you keep it in the high RPM, you have acceleration. The clutch and the gears are very easy to use. It feels like a friendly bike. Honestly, that's what it feels like. It feels like a friendly motorcycle. That's an interesting proposition. It feels like the kind of bike that wouldn't let you down in any situation, and that you could abuse and use and abuse as hard as you want, and it will still come back for more. So if you're a beginner rider and you're trying to convince your parents to buy you your first motorcycle, skip the second-hand market. If you have at least 2,500 euros, get yourself on something like this. It will do just about anything, and you will have the time of your life riding it until you're 18 and you get your A2 license. Then you can start getting on something bigger, but for your first 2 years riding, this is a perfect proposition as a beginner motorcycle. I mean, just think about it. You can go to high school with it, you can go meet your friends on it, you can carry your girlfriend on the back. The seat is nice and wide and comfortable and very good for a pillion. You can put a top case on the back and do a bit of touring with it. The world is your playground. But that has been it, guys. That has been the video on the Zontes Monster. Thank you all so very much for watching, for liking the videos, for subscribing. And if you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member of the channel. And until next time, take care out there, everyone, and ride safe. Goodbye.